Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Western North Yorkshire Chamber of Commerce's latest Bitesize Boardroom. This is a series of free online events for both members of the Chamber and non-members. But of course, we'd prefer it if you do join as a member. And if you're not a fully paid up transactional member, well, why not? But secondly, you can join as a Chamber supporter, which is free to start with, and you have access to, as I say, a number of online courses and resources like this. The purpose of the Bitesize Boardroom is to give businesses of all shapes and sizes genuine access to expertise. As businesses grow, they employ consultants, non-execs. They may eventually have a board of directors, which gives them the bandwidth to have experience and expertise from the sectors of law, of HR, of computer science, accountancy, etc. But I get it, as a small business, and I've been there myself, you don't have the benefits of that. You have colleagues and friends that might be able to give you some advice, but it might not always be expertise or in a specific sector. So that's what the purpose of the next hour is. We've got 4 experts in the field of artificial intelligence. Some of you on the call today may be at day one. It may be the first step or toe into the water of this mind-blowing concept that is the latest revolution of humankind after industrial revolutions. This is now the technological revolution, isn't it? So we've got some real experts that can help along the way. The hour will be useful if we offer you some practical tips to take away and embed into your, I suppose, daily lives or your working lives. And it's a very informal hour, so feel free to use the chat box that my colleague Tamsin will monitor. Put questions in there. We'll have a period where we can actually interact and speak, but for the first 25 minutes, I would say it would be just listening, if that's okay. And without further ado, we will get on with things. And I'm going to introduce now, in the following order, our 4 panelists, if I may. We've got Rebecca Fitzgerald, we've got Scott Sellers, we've got Edward Marshall and Sherin Matthew. Both Rebecca and Scott have a strong connection with the Chamber of Commerce, but I'll let them do their own introductions, and then I'm going to ask them all a very simple question to start with. But Rebecca, if we can start with yourself, a little bit about you and your role within the AI metasphere, shall we say?
Yeah, hi everyone. It's lovely to join. And yeah, as James said, I'm strongly connected to the chambers. I'm a non-exec director of Western North Yorkshire, but I'm also Bradford's president, which is lovely. But my day job is Director of Data and AI at Yorkshire Building Society. I've worked at Yorkshire for 27 years, so my role has kind of spanned business, technology, and then data and AI. So whilst James references us as an expert, I am more in the strategy and business value, rather than please don't ask me any scientific questions about large language models and all the things that come with the tech itself. But yeah, I'm excited to kind of get into the debate. But yeah, it's good to be here. Oh, you're on mute, James.
Oh, we're 6 minutes in and I've fallen for the old mute trap already. I thought those days had gone. Thanks, Rebecca. Can we hand over to Scott now, please?
Certainly. Good afternoon, everybody. Lovely to be here. I'm Scott Sellers. I work for the Chamber of Commerce. I've been here for 25 years or so a long-standing employee. In terms of what we're doing today, my role is around strategically looking at IT for the Chamber. We are in the early stages of adopting AI, probably started looking at it seriously from about at the turn of this year. And hopefully I can give some insight into actually what you need to consider when you are thinking about introducing AI into the business workflows.
Perfect. Thanks, Scott. And yeah, anyone that is a Chamber member or that's been on our website in the past few weeks will see we have a little new friend called Al. So you can ask Al anything, and we're learning how to prompt Al with questions that you may ask, but Al's a quick learner. So anytime they are asked a question and they don't know the answer to, they go away and find it, and we work together. So very cheap as well, very, very, very cost effective. Always on time and never ever complains. Next, Ed Marshall, please. If you could introduce yourself to everyone.
Of course, thanks, James. Yeah, great to meet you all. I'm Ed Marshall. I am CTO at Enablis. CTO is a fancy title, but I'm still very much a doer. So been really passionate and involved in kind of AI and and I guess I see my role for a lot of the companies we consult with, that I'm meant to be there to have a good idea of a path forward for them. So, part and parcel of that is kind of lots of research, testing, validation, proof of concepts, working with customers to understand what does work of the things they've tried so far and what doesn't. So I've definitely done some stuff wrong. I've definitely done some stuff right in that time, hopefully too. And hopefully today sort of share a little bit of that, I guess, of, where we see strengths and, thinking of the topic for today, really, how can people get on board really quickly onto that journey and, find their own path as well.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ed. And we're delighted to have you. Thanks for giving your time up. Last but not least, Sherin Matthew.
Thank you, James, and thank you, the Chambers of Commerce as well, for having me. Absolute pleasure to support this amazing event. Hi, everyone. Sherin Matthew. I'm the founder and CEO of AI Tech UK. Been in the tech space for nearly 2 decades. Worked with likes of Fortune 500 companies, Microsoft, IBM, and I've taken these companies like Nestle, H&M, BMW, Ford on an enterprise AI journey. We're talking since 2016. And AI was not that hot topic at that time, and it was really difficult to build from scratch. And we're talking sovereign AI, where you have your own ownership, fully compliant, fully trusted, not ChatGPT for your reference. So build it, broken it, and I decided, you know what, there is a recipe to make successful AI. And after working with Fortune 500 companies, I decided to start my own venture to help northern SMEs. My business was first called AI Tech North. Then we rebranded to AI Tech UK. We've been running a lot of AI empowerment events as well, such as Yorkshire X, now called Innovation X. And in this journey, I've been helping hundreds of businesses and hundreds of startups. And what's beautiful about this is every day, every hour, we get to see different types of AI problem, from manufacturing to e-commerce to professional services. And everyone uses AI in a different way, and everyone solves a different problem with AI in a different way. So yes, happy to share my learning and my experience, and excited for the next questions from James.
Brilliant. Thanks, Sherin, and thanks, panelists. And just a few quick welcomes to Victoria, Frank, Mayank, Emma, Ian, that have all joined in the last few minutes. We're delighted that we've got well over 40 people on this call listening in today. So clearly it's a subject that is of interest to all of us. Before we start, I've used AI to ask AI about itself to start with. So this is Google's AI engine that has prompted this answer. Artificial intelligence, in brackets AI, is a branch of computer science focused on creating systems that can perform tasks typically requiring human intelligence, such as reasoning, problem solving, learning, perception, and decision making. AI achieves this by processing vast amounts of data, identifying patterns, and using algorithms to make predictions or take actions, which allows machines to learn and adapt over time. So that's just quickly, you could use a number of engines and machines to try and come up with a succinct answers to what AI is and how it can be used in our daily lives. But I'm going to ask all the panel, starting with Rebecca, then Scott, then Ed, and Sherin, just to try and put that in layperson's terms. So if your grandmother, for argument's sake, said, Rebecca, what's this AI thing that I hear on the news, that I read about, and I'm scared, it's all about robots, and it's going to be, all these films from the past coming back to prove that people were right. In short, as simple as possible, layperson's terms on AI.
Yeah, I think AI for me is almost I don't like to use the term co-pilot because there is a product out there called Copilot, but it's like a digital version of yourself. So if you imagine everything that you do on a day-to-day basis, there is a way to kind of get in front of that with a digital version. So I use analogies like, from the mobile phone to the smartphone. So the smartphone is full of apps, and the apps are kind of helping you to live your life. They're helping you to do things more productive. If you go search for a recipe online and you want to kind of find, well, actually, I've got these ingredients and I want to do these things. Actually, there is AI everywhere. And I think if you think about it as this evolution of smart technology, yes, there's a lot of science. It is based on machines. And yes, when you get into the depths of technology, but what I would say is it's something that's become very accessible to users, where they can just implement it or augment it, as the term is, into their daily lives. It then goes up the spectrum, and you can get really technical with it, where you can be, you know, if you take, I don't know, healthcare, you can be right up there in diagnosis of you know, health conditions that society's had for hundreds of years, where tech can now start to see things that the human eye couldn't see. So it's almost about creating a digital version of the human and bringing the two things together. That's a very odd way of describing it, but I'm trying to be quite human about it rather than talking about, you know, widgets that we build.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great start. So I suppose we're looking at this as a colleague, aren't we? Whether they are digital or humanized, something that can help us do our daily tasks, monthly tasks, annual tasks quicker and easier to enable us to do other things.
Yes.
Okay, great. No, I mean, maybe not paraphrase it exactly right, but it's a great start, and of course it will be to some extent subjective as well. So Scott, same question to you, and then how would you explain this to someone who went, "What is this that you do, Scott? What's this thing?"
Well, one thing that it isn't, for those who are old enough, it isn't Terminator. It's not going to end the world. It's here to enhance what we, from a business perspective, it's here to enhance what we already do, without having to go through necessarily all the pain points of having to do those things. So, I mean, I'll try and give practical examples as we go through. I don't work in the back end of AI like Sherin obviously does. I'm at the business forefront of what's going on. So I'll try and keep things as non-technical as possible. But we've just moved at the Chamber to a choice-based membership system, as hopefully quite a few of you out there know, which gives people choices in what they want to do, which products they want to use from the Chamber. And we are looking at using artificial intelligence now to help analyse what people are using when they buy these packages, to further inform members of areas that they are using, that they are paying for, and areas that they could be using that they are not yet paying for, but may well add advantage to their own business processes. Now, when you think we've got, you know, tens of thousands of data elements on our CRM system, our client relationship management system, to get rid of the initialization, then to try and do that manually will be really difficult and really time consuming, given the resources we have at the Chamber for staff. So we are therefore looking at how do we introduce these additional colleagues, which is how we're thinking of them, to actually take some of that time consuming work away and actually start populating fields for us, so we can then pass the information out to members and to others who might ask the questions of us.
Thanks, Scott. That's a really succinct and practical example of how an organisation like the Chamber of Commerce, that's been going hundreds and hundreds of years, is just on our own journey and using it, to save time. The membership team is a team of 4. We can't cope with the volume of questions that we get. And guess what? Lots of the questions are the same. So we've grouped them together and we've asked Al to prompt these answers so that they don't have to ring or email, and it can be 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Well, good start, team, because Leanne in the chat has already said that's the best description I've ever heard anyone give. And because that was 14 minutes past, I think that was you, Rebecca, but Scott, yours was as good. Ed, let's see if you can keep the ball rolling.
Well, I'll probably follow on from Scott's thing there, because I was thinking about, I think probably when we talk about like a digital twin, as Rebecca was saying, you know, this kind of, I think it's a really good way to think about it, because I think it's the first technology we've ever had where a lot of its strengths and weaknesses are very comparable to kind of human nature, just in virtue of how these things are built. You know, they do make mistakes, they do hallucinate, they do take you on a bit of a journey sometimes, but they're quite human-like mistakes. And then likewise, individually, the different products, the different AI solutions from different companies each have their own sort of tendencies or nuances or personalities, if you will. So I think that's really good. But then the last part of what Paul was talking about there is, and where I think the majority, the benefit from what AI could be used to give to your business is much more in the kind of agentic flow. So that's much more kind of behind the scenes working away. So thinking of less people's introduction to AI, which was, you know, like the ChatGPT and an actual chat-like interface, to AI being given authority to work with a certain input and a certain output, etc. So, a great example, like, in call centers, to be able to create descriptions or to be able to identify cases which need escalations, you start to come up with these things where you could see how they tie into current systems. And I actually think it's probably more automation where the value is, but AI is the kind of tool that helps deliver it.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ed. So this is good. We've got some commonality. We've got some machine learning already going on. Shireen, if you can just complete the sort of set then.
Pressure there. So, no, lovely definition from everyone. And I just would like to add that I'm just going to break the term artificial intelligence. Now, let's talk about the intelligent part first. It is an intellectual assistant. So, especially when businesses are doing something that takes a lot of time, there's simple logic, but repeated often. Sometimes can be boring and laborious. So, anything that has a lot of intellectual overload, but by doing boring, mechanical, repeated things, it is an intellectual assistant. And yes, as Ed and everyone mentioned, yes, it is also a human assistant. And that's where the term artificial comes into play. It is there to mimic something that we know that can be done in an automated, mechanical manner and can be repeated through a digital or in a mechanical format. And that's where robotics comes into play. Smart manufacturing comes into play, smart contracts, smart documentation, and of course, ChatGPT. So this is almost a good way to probably describe almost a intellectual human or a business assistant. Yeah.
That's really useful, Sharon, because the follow-up question to this would be, how are you all using it? And I guess that will be different for all of you, depending on the sector that you're in. And of course, it would be useful actually for all people on the line today, just to quickly put in the chat box your sector. So if you're in finance and accounting, if you're in manufacturing, if you're in HR, that will be really useful. So by the end of it, we might be able to give some practical examples as to what you do and how you do it. Because Sharon, if I stay with you on that,
Yeah.
time saving is something that came across from all four of you. So I'm lucky to have a number of colleagues at the Chamber of Commerce, and Deborah, my closest colleague, helps me with my diary. I probably get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of emails per day, and she sifts through them, condenses them in a very intellectual way, which means I know that this is really important for James versus this one that's not as important, for argument's sake, and helps me with it. So she's using her intelligence, but as a human, to learn what I need and what helps me do my job quicker. If I had to do this at the end of the day, it would mean that probably someone that emails on a Monday morning might get a response Thursday afternoon. That's just me giving an example of what you're saying about time saving. But could you give everyone on the call today just a couple of practical examples that may or may not exist? It might be an app, it might be just something you do yourself that can just save a bit of time at work. I know that's really general, but let's just think of everyone now. Let's start with just everyone that's got a mobile phone or an email inbox. And then maybe when we come back to you, you can give specific examples of clients that you've worked with that have come to you with a problem that you've helped to solve or help solving.
Sure. When I work with business, I often start not just with a narrow focus, but with a holistic focus, which is really looking at business as a set of process, which it is. So let's start with the entry-level process, which is how do I get my customer? And I'm sure we all have sales and marketing, function. And it is that every business often worries and often spends a lot of time on. How do I manage my leads? How do I manage my customer sales and engage with them? So to summarize this, improving the business engagement, there are n number of AI tools, AI-powered marketing tool, AI-powered lead generation tools, AI-powered CRM, AI-powered personalized email campaigns, and yet all these simple things, even if they add 5%, 5% here, 5, that's your entry point or engagement or customer engagement improved by 20%. And these are just simple tools already out there. And the list is long. I can't name all of them, but yes, there is AI CRM, AI marketing tools, AI lead generation, SDRs. I don't know if you heard of that, which is sales generation tool, which actually handles the call, handles or triages the call. If you have already existing database of prospects and customers that you want to reach out, it actually makes the call as well. As long as you're being ethical and compliant about the usage of AI tools, especially with your customers, it should be okay to use these. So that's just the entry point. Then I'm sure I've seen a few other sectors over here, such as construction, manufacturing, professional service, HR. There's a lot of back-end operations that we have to handle. Now, this is where sometimes you'll have to customize existing platforms, such as low code, or build your own AI solution. This often takes time, but it's worthwhile. And I often say, let's do an ROI calculation. If I'm spending 20 hours a week just on backend operation, where I do a lot of mechanical tasks, if I can reduce this with AI, and there's about, say, 20 plus staff doing this already, that's a lot of hours, 400 hours a week. So how can I simplify this for my staff? These are the decisions that you should, as a business owner, should make. That, okay, should I buy some tools for quick returns, or should I customize something for reducing my operational effort, automating certain things like document generation or document analysis, or anything that churns and takes a lot of time and hard work. So that is also a great way to explore AI in your business. So customization, which often takes about 3 to 6 months, in complex scenarios, about 12 months. But yes, it can be done in a smart way where it returns a value within 3 to 6 months. Last but not the least, often delivery side, which we don't see end-to-end picture. And just having AI from start to end, or having data collected from start to end, gives you that end-to-end picture. Just knowing how many customers are here, so that we know how much stock do we have and how do we manage the inventory, is a huge power. And just being able to run your business in a smart way with some predictability, and knowing that in September, August, I will sell more ice cream, that kind of insights is really helpful. So hopefully, I know I gave you a bit of a end-to-end overview, but hopefully this gives you some idea.
Selling more ice cream as summer ends. Surely that can't be right. Surely it should predict it should be June onwards.
Okay, June onwards, yes. But as an example.
I know what you meant. I know what you meant. Listen, there's some brilliant interaction in the web chat, which we'll get to. But Sherry, that was great. Oh, am I still there? Thought I'd lost you all then. Just very quickly, we've got people from planning and development, HR, construction, headhunting, charity, accountancy, and so on and so forth. So it's great. Sharon, that was brilliant. And we'll come back to you in a bit about asking you your favorite AI apps that you might use. And I've just written a couple of mine down here. So Ed, same question to you. You know, if you were to give one takeaway today to help anyone that's thinking about how they can start making AI work for them in their business today, it doesn't need to be you know, grand scale, but just simple things to start them on this journey, to save time, to make things a little bit easier, and maybe a practical example from the work that you do, that would be really useful, please.
Yeah, I'll do it in reverse order if that's okay. So in terms of practical examples, I guess one of the benefits of sort of consulting is you get to see quite a broad range of how people are utilizing these tools. One thing that just sticks in my mind, somebody said construction in the chat yesterday. Yesterday we completed a piece of work for a construction related business, sort of in the sort of construction consultancy space. And it was around the generation of fire safety reports utilizing what effectively are architect drawings. So think like CAD file type, you know, 2D views of buildings, how they're laid out, etc. And we built a proof of concept that could read the PDF files, understand the layouts of the building, and then what it could do is it could also consume the building regulations that were apparent, so based on where that was geographically, etc. And what it could actually do is there's a fire safety report, which still needs to be due to the regulations authored by, you know, people, an individual. But what it allowed it to do was basically to do the 70%. And I think that's a good space for a use case like that, where you get a lot of the legwork done, all the easy stuff done, and you're just dropping in really to add that kind of expertise and finish and review, which means that you can get through a hell of a lot more in that time. And I think that's really beneficial. I think that's just a use case. Someone mentioned construction of a, it's not something I would go to because it's not my domain, but you do get a lot of these good ideas of where the real value of these tools can be coming from the ground up, not the top down. I think top down can be quite producty thinking in terms of how can I empower my product with AI, etc. Whereas, what we're talking about is how we, a lot of the talk has been how can we make our lives easier? How can we automate a lot of this stuff? And I think creating a mechanism for people to be able to contribute those ideas. I don't think just allowing AI to happen in your business organically is good. I think probably some guardrails, etc. I think Sharon was talking about, responsibility there to make sure it's ethical and stuff. Some really lightweight guardrails and maybe some tooling that you recommend as a business, so that people have got a bit of a you've got sponsorship from the business. We'll fund a certain amount, got the green light to be able to start to bring to life some of those kind of ideas from the ground up.
Thanks, Ed. That's great. And we've another couple of comments in there along what you and Sharon said about authenticity and verifying. Because if we're talking about a digital twin, well, the human makes mistakes. That's how we all learn. So our AIs will as well, won't they? So and you mentioned construction. There's someone already who's reached out to you. Caroline has asked, Ed, could we have that? Could we use that in housing? I'm guess that the answer would be yes. I'm sure you can follow that up directly. And I've seen that we've got Katrina on as well, who's a chamber colleague. I know that she works in the space of interior design and making buildings work. So you shared a practical example with me last week that I might bring you in, Kat, Lewis, a bit later on, if that's okay. Scott, so you mentioned that we are on our own journey at the Chamber of Commerce using AI, and just talk us through Ask Al and how we see that working. You did at the start, but how is that saving us time and energy that someone who also receives lots, maybe there's another organization, especially the charity, that might receive lots and lots of questions about what they do or how someone can get involved with their business, but of course you can't answer all the phones all the time and all the emails. So just talk us through Ask Al.
Yeah, certainly. So, I mean, Ask Al is kind of would be, certainly considered for the group we've got on the panel, very, very much entry level artificial intelligence. It is there to replicate what a colleague would answer if somebody had phoned up. But of course, it's there 24/7. It's available on the website regardless of where you are, what day of the week it is, whether the Chamber's offices are open or closed at that time. And we looked at it from the start point and said, what are the main questions people are asking us? And I would give any business out there looking to implement a chatbot, the first piece of advice I would give is get third parties to tell you what questions they would ask. Don't try and guess what questions you think people would ask of you in your business. You're too kind of embedded in your business to know what the problems people have. So we went out and asked people, what would you ask us? Because we didn't know. We didn't have a chat bot collecting the data, so we didn't know what people were asking. Once you ask people what they're going to ask, then you can start formulating in your chat bot what the appropriate response is. And where that, if that information is, you probably need to speak to a human. And you will see this in real life, won't you? You often go on a website and it'll start off being a chatbot, and then it'll go, I probably just need to transfer to a human being. I've gone as far as I can. Well, that's kind of where we are in our chatbot development. It can't answer all the questions. I was happy to see it and know quite near the start of the meeting that somebody had used it and found it very useful. But every day of every week of every month, we are finding questions that people are asking that the chatbot Al can't currently answer. And we are therefore feeding it more information on how to answer the questions that it doesn't yet know the answer to. It's like, as James said earlier, it is like having another member of staff. It's like having another colleague. We're having to teach it what the Chamber does. As I've been here 25 years. people don't really have to teach me much about what the Chamber's about these days, but I had to learn it over a period of time. So don't think the answer happens on day one, because it doesn't. You have to keep going back and revisiting. Something as simple as a chatbot, you need to revisit and say, is it doing what we expect? Hallucination has been mentioned a couple of times. AI does hallucinate, it does give the wrong answers. So how do we then teach it what the correct answer is and let it feed that out to the people asking the questions? But eventually you will find that most AI online, in terms of chatbots, will eventually go, I can't help anymore, please speak to a human being. But at least it's there to handle the heavy lifting at the start.
Thanks, Scott. And Rebecca, thanks for waiting patiently. You are a very busy lady with a high-profile job at Yorkshire Building Society and now the Bradford Chamber President. So there are two versions of you now, as well as being a mum and a wife and sister and daughter and everything else, and friend. So how are you using AI in your practical life, whether that's at home, managing a busy household, or at work? You mentioned Copilot and how that might condense or summarize 25 emails in a chain. So how are you using it first and foremost, if you don't mind? And then secondly, at Yorkshire Building Society, I've just jumped on their homepage, whether it's ISAs, mortgages, credit cards, etc. Maybe an insight into just the practicalities of how you as an organisation are sifting gazillion files into help your colleagues.
Yeah, definitely. So from a personal perspective, so I don't use Google, I don't use internet search engines anymore. I use Copilot, which is Microsoft's obviously ChatGPT, and it's all linked together. So I will constantly, so my dad was here for the weekend, we were watching Live Aid because it was so many years since the original, and he was like, oh, there was a lady singing, she was called Isabel, she was singing this great song by John Lennon and blah. I was like, Copilot, so this was the gig, it sounds like Isabel, she was singing this version, oh, it's Patti LaBelle, Dad, back to your glass of wine. So I am using it as my new search engine, but in my day-to-day, I guess for me, so I'm part of a pilot within Yorkshire Building Society where we've given the executives and the non-exec directors the first licenses for full fat Copilot, which when I say full fat Copilot, it's a Microsoft 365. So if you imagine your desktop, Excel, Word, SharePoint, all of the Microsoft, kind of tools that we've been used to for the last 30 years, I guess we've kind of given them a license which will allow their Copilot to act alongside them and access their emails. It's all within a pilot, as I said, but what that does is it allows us to give the organisation its own secure, kind of use of AI without people searching ChatGPT and putting sensitive Yorkshire Building Society questions and information out there that the whole world can learn from. Because you've got to remember, this world is competitive and you don't want to give away your big secrets. And the more you use open source, the more you're sharing, kind of your own information. So for me, within that Microsoft sort of landscape, I've learned that corporate buzzwords have become my issue, that I write things and I spend so long writing things in reports that I just have lost, kind of just natural English writing where, neurodivergent people have taught me a lot to take the buzzwords out because they don't make any sense. When people in the tech team say the platform's on fire, it's like, don't run, it's fine. The platform is not on fire. It's a term that we use. But actually, I think what artificial intelligence does me, and I love the descriptions that people gave earlier, it just strips out some of the noise that we've created in the sort of corporate world. So the fact I can take the Yorkshire Building Society tone of voice that we've had verified and tested against regulation, etc., and I can check that anything that I'm putting out in a report, does that match Yorkshire Building Society's voice? Yes, it does. So these are techniques that the marketing teams will use, but actually it's become something that I can just use on a day-to-day basis. We did an interview recently, so you'll know when you're recruiting, you get CVs in, so you're looking for the right people, but we kind of used it to transcript the interview itself. And then what we were able to do was take the transcript and match that against the criteria of what we were looking for, then overlay a human. But actually, it's not necessarily the time it takes to think about the choice of the person, the candidate that you want to take on. It's the amount of time it takes to document. If you've got 10 people that you're recruiting, there is a legal obligation to keep records of what what you discussed, what you talked about, your decision, why it was fair, why it wasn't fair. So actually, it's more the behind the scenes things that you have to do with the tools that we've already got. So it's actually just, I think Sharon called it powered by AI. I like that term. It's my new one. I've written that down. But I think that's just it. And we're kind of using it in the same way across the organization, to just, kind of test and learn how individuals can be more productive. So I've given you a couple of examples that I use, but we're now moving into, I think Ed mentioned it, we're now moving into that sort of generative AI, agentic systems, similar to Scott, where, you're kind of building chatbots behind the scenes. So we're all quite familiar with, you're trying to pay a direct debit and you go onto something and there's a chatbot that can answer so many questions. Actually, what we're starting to build within the organization is those agents that are behind the scenes. So I can build an agent that can do a repetitive task that I can just have on my desktop. So it's things like that we're using it for. I'm really excited about, kind of, I'm obviously thinking now 12 months ahead. We've got lots of people doing lots of things about productivity, but I'm quite excited about how AI might help us think about the mortgage journey, think about how people buy houses, and what is the difference that we could make. Because a building society, we've got to be very thoughtful about how we sell our products and services. So actually the housing, I'm sure everybody knows what it's like to buy a house or rent a house and all the stuff that comes with it. I mean, can you imagine a world where we've taken out all the painful parts of that and made it quite interesting and exciting, and maybe found ways to sell houses and buy houses that we've never thought about before? And I think that's the last point I will say is, it's actually, for me, I ask AI the questions. I ask it to tell me things. What questions would you ask? That's my new favorite thing to do. So I'll do a lot of stuff and I'll find things on AI, and you're finding questions for your CRM system that your customers are always asking. My question to AI is, so what would you ask? It's brilliant. Try it, because it actually will give you a very different perspective. It's very diverse in its thought. It's like, well, have you thought about this, Becky? And I'm like, wow, that was brilliant. So that's the new tip of the month for me. Oh, you've done it again, James. You're on mute.
Sorry, I need AI to help me. Put your mic on, James. I should suggest it. Some of your answers there about those HR challenges and the interview process. I'm sure Emma and Sam, who have said they work in HR, and there was a headhunter. Was it Laura? Let's have a quick look. Yeah, Laura in headhunting will probably already do that, or if they don't, great. This has been worth coming on for this hour. So we've about 20 minutes left. We knew we'd fly through. So if there's anyone online that's got a burning question, I'll be putting you can put your mic live shortly, but there's a couple of things that I'll just pick up from the chat box, if that's okay. Jamie, thanks for some of your interaction. You've just referenced Copilot there, and why Copilot is called Copilot, which I think is a brilliant analogy. In a plane, the pilot is there flying the plane, but they can't possibly keep an eye on all of the instruments. That's why they have a Copilot to help them out with gathering the most important information, or perhaps information that the pilot might have missed, or that might be useful to help them navigate the airspace. So Microsoft Copilot is your Copilot for the plane that is your life. And of course, Copilot is an app that uses ChatGPT or other AI models underneath it. Okay, so here we go then. Let's pull up one of these questions. Well, I'll tell you what, let's use a question that's come up a couple of times on verifying things. So Sharon, if we come back to you, so let's stay with this analogy of a colleague that we trust, because they are an expert. They're the financial controller of the business, and we trust them that what they're doing is correct. But mistakes can happen, or they might overlook something. So just a health warning, not to terrify us, going back to Scott's analogy of the Terminator, but these are machines learning from humans ultimately, or knowledge that exists. So what do we need to just be aware of? And I don't mean, let's not go to the nth degree and talk about the end of civilization, just practical steps of, you're on that journey, you've got a few apps downloaded, you're going to start doing things. You mentioned, you did mention ethics, but other than that, just some practical tips to be aware of. And if you can do this in 60 seconds, everyone, because we're then going to go to questions.
Okay, right. I have worked with Ministry of Defense, European Commission, advised our lovely DCIT in London as well, especially on compliance and governance. And myself and my business, we specialize in governance management solution, which is what we export, and hence the reason our collaboration. So going back to risk, compliance, and more importantly, how do you manage the governance side of things? It's a difficult one, but I'll try to it's all based on risk. So I'm going to reference European AI Act, which we may not be directly impacted, but we may be if you're selling to a European customer. And they have a very comprehensive risk posture and almost like a matrix, which says clearly, if the risk is high, be mindful of using AI. And when I say mindful, there should be a human in the loop. Your policy should be dead clear in terms of what type of data is being captured, personal information, how it has been processed, stored. There's an element of GDPR as well, but in the context of AI, it means certain personal things such as my voice, my image, my behavior, my body language. All of these are personal information that comes from my DNA. It's more personal than my credit card or phone number, which can change anytime, but these things can't change. So when we are in a regulated sector, which means legal, finance, health, public services, anything where anything moves or any wrong decision could result into physical harm or emotional or intellectual harm as well. These are the things that we got to be mindful of. So when we loosely download any tool, I'm going to use Copilot because that's been mentioned a lot. So let's say we use Copilot and we are in a regulated sector and we are putting our expertise, like expertise that we know as a human being, took us decades to build. Plus, our business has core capital and intellectual capital, more importantly. That goes into an AI agent that we don't know where it's being processed, how it's being stored. And if that AI agent is learning from it, we're losing intelligence and critical intelligence of the business. So yes, I would say if you're in a regulated sector, take it with a pinch of salt, go with the caution matrix of risk, and more importantly, how does it impact if this data goes out of the organization? So ask these questions to start with. I'm going to leave it there without scaring anyone.
Thanks, Sharon. No, that's really useful. We can't just, drink the Kool-Aid and expect it's going to solve all our lives overnight. So I suppose same question, Ed, for yourself, but just following on from that, Lee's score is just added. So what are the biggest risks for any business starting to use AI? Big question, but similar to Sharon for you.
I mean, business risk goes two ways. There's not many businesses that exist without competition, and if a competitor has a strong vision, a strategy, and capability, and they can drive down their costs through workflow automation enabled by AI, then you've got that as a risk. Whether you like it or not, kind of AI is on the scene in that regard. I think Sharon's already talked to there about the kind of the more corporate side of things and how you manage risks. I think probably govern there, but on a more like practical level, internal to the business, I think, I touched on it earlier, but for me, a really simple 1 or 2 page of acceptable use guide for your business that sits alongside your policies that people read on an annual basis, whatever it might be, an easy way people can self-serve and get access to some of these tools, etc. I think education here is a thing that enables people to benefit also, but enables to manage risk. I think by kind of burying head in the sand or deferring, etc., people will use these tools. And when they do, they're probably not going to use it in a secure fashion. They're probably going to use it on the phone. And you start to lose control of customer data and the things that do matter to the business. So I think for me is risk is always about balance, and it's about choosing those things. But I would bring it back to just doing so in a safe way by creating and fostering the kind of culture and environment that enables that in the first place.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ed. Scott, do you want to answer this one, or I can pass it on to Rebecca if you want?
No, it's fine. So I've actually got a couple of angles, I guess, on the same question. I think the first one is, if you're using AI for internal data mining, then as long as whatever you are feeding that into, you have a methodology of exception reporting, then when the AI hallucinates, you're going to see the answer. So if we had, for example, ABC company on our CRM system, we suddenly saw a number that got 10,000 staff, there'll be a flag coming up somewhere on an exception report that says, is that likely? Go check the numbers. So I think it's important that if you're using AI internally, you have some exception reporting to be able to identify where that hallucination might be happening. And a really important thing externally is if you're using AI to create reports and meeting notes or whatever it might be as consultants, we do this a lot, don't we? We have a meeting, we can transcribe meetings now on Teams using Copilot, back to Copilot again, because that's what we use as well. But we can also get, we can now as an organization, we can get one of our consultants to have a meeting and then write, some action points over several meetings. And you've just got to be careful that that report that AI generates has the information there that you want, not what it's gone and data mined and put in a report, because it will look a lot deeper than you've got time to look. And that's the thing to think about. When I'm writing a report now for a client, it will go check every email I've ever had with that client to see if information that we have is pertinent. It might have been pertinent 2 or 3 years ago, but it might not be now. And therefore, the report that AI generates isn't the one you would have sent out. So that's where you need the human health check to make sure that what you're sending out of the business makes sense to the people you're sending it to.
Brilliant, Scott. Thank you. And then finally, Rebecca.
Yeah, I'll just 2 points really. I'll build on one that was in the chat about are we in danger of our junior, sort of resources not having that, critical thinking, that they're just kind of working as a co-pilot and kind of just going with the things. I think there is a real risk of, I don't know about you, but I'm from the 80s. But there's generations of people, and we're in a sort of generation where jobs for life are not really a thing anymore. So people are moving careers every 3 years. I don't know what the statistic is, but it's about 3 years people will move careers. So the danger that you've got is your knowledge is not stored in the way it used to be, which is in the humans. And you used to go, well, ask John, ask Derek, ask somebody over there. They'll know the answer to that. And actually what AI is doing is it's helping organizations see that they've probably not kept things in libraries and repositories and kept knowledge managed in a way that actually, if I want to ask a question, if a bot wants to ask the question, you have to make it very easy for the bot to find the information. If a human wants to ask the question, they might have to go to the HR department, and then they get passed on to the tax department, and then they get passed on to somebody else. And actually, the ability to pick up the phone and email someone, it's all bottlenecks these days. You're not in an office where you can just ask people a question. We've moved on from that. So I think the risk of the knowledge being stored in the humans is definitely, for me, outweighing the risk of actually teaching people new ways of storing data and knowledge is actually going to reduce that risk in time. And I just think, end on that sort of data point, it's all about the data. It always has been, but I think data has been one of those topics where it's the I in IT, as I like to tell people. So we kind of forget about the I, and we forget that technology really has kind of driven. But for me, in a data role within an organization, it's been like pushing water up a hill to get people to understand the importance of data. Along comes AI and people go, oh, we really should be careful with our data and, how we can get access to it. Yes, that's what we've been saying for quite a number of years. And I think Sharon's point, about videos, unstructured data, it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So we do have to put those, sort of AI policies and guardrails around it.
Brilliant. Thank you all. Right, we're going to hand it over to colleagues online now. But before we do that, a bit more homework. So in the chat box, if you don't mind, there's a question. Maybe share some of our favourite AI apps, whether personal use and or business, as I'm sure some will overlap. I've just written 3 down that I've used this morning. Canva, which helped me create sort of, I suppose, marketing documents if I've been to an event and I want to brand it up with a chamber logo and a few little pictures to make it a bit more, I don't know, interesting than just a normal LinkedIn post. I'm sure my marketing team will tell me that I'm breaking all sorts of rules, but it helps me. CapCut, my daughter taught me that one. When we were on holiday, she took loads of videos and pictures and put it into CapCut, and it made a lovely montage of the video that we sent to Grandma and Grandad. Didn't go anywhere further, but that was lovely. So I could use that maybe if I get clever one day. But she just said, Dad, you just put the pictures in, choose your template, and it does it for you. It's as simple as that. And then I also use a chess one because I'm really, really boring. But I've also used apps. I've seen AI this morning when I went onto my bank. when I was looking to book some flights, and probably when we're looking for Halloween costume ideas in the next few weeks. So if you can all just add into the chat, maybe just a couple of your favourite apps and what ridiculous things it's helped you do or it's changed your life in a simple way, a bit like Copilot is doing for Rebecca. But Katrina, if we could just ask you just how you've practically used AI in your business. So maybe 30 seconds on what you do and how you use an AI has transformed you to get quotes, tenders, images out because of what you do very quickly. Is that okay?
Yeah,
And then
I was just typing it in the box in the bot in case we didn't have time. But top level, really. So 2 hats, residential interior designer is my business. And I also work with a commercial fit out company, Form, which is refurbs of commercial spaces in a nutshell. So one example that is utilised in Form, so we spend a lot of time in bids and tenders. And as an SME, there's 14 within the business, but it's really time consuming. And often you can put a lot of time and effort in and actually, you're not really, you won't get anywhere. And it's trying to see how can we make the process more efficient and understanding scale of jobs. So when we receive a bid or a tender in, we'll use AI to quickly scan through the tender to give us an idea of, scale of the project, because we want to know, right, can we fit it in? What's the duration of the project? What's the timeline? What's the rough cost? And then picking out, right, what are the main risks or opportunities associated with the project, really? So we can quite clearly say, oh, well, actually, that's the 52-week project and it's starting next week, so we haven't got capacity to do that. I know that's a bit extreme, but it's an example. The second thing that I utilise in my residential business is one for marketing. So I'll brain dump what I kind of want to cover as part of my strategy, and then AI will basically give me my marketing content, and then I obviously refine that because people invest in me. It's my style, it's my personality. So obviously, the more I use that then saves me so much time and effort in terms of, you sat there, you're doing, it's like, right, use tech. So I use it for marketing, but I also use it for, we can be sat in a room, I can take a photograph, I'll put the brief in for my client, and in seconds, I've got a visual render. So create a cozy living space, living room, family friendly, XYZ, and I'll give reference points. And then it creates me that image. So that saves me as a business quite a lot financially and also time, because I've used Fiverr.com. So I'll use Fiverr.com, I'll use a regular person and she's amazing and I still use her, but the quality of imagery. And so it saves time and money. So, and the third way that I've used it is even in soft communications, where sometimes you might need to be delicate in a conversation and responding to someone, and I can be quite direct and I'll know what I want to say, and I'll like soften this. I did it to my husband. I can't remember what it's about. I wrote it, I put it in, I went, how do I say this to my husband? And then I used it and it was like, brilliant, got what I wanted. Awesome. So it's just using it in a fun way that's like, what's not going to pee my husband off and get what I want. Second thing is, how can it be utilised to save time and make my business more efficient to be able to do an awesome job for clients? And then in the world of commercial, identifying the right opportunities that we're wanting to be spending time to give us the best chance of winning the jobs and the right kind of jobs that we want to be going for.
Brilliant. There's some really great examples, and I think we'll all use that app, whatever it is, to
husband one's a great one.
What's that, sorry?
The husband one was a great one.
Yeah, I can see me using that and vice versa. And from Leanne Alexander, this is a lovely one. Chat GPT is my ADHD translator. I can now articulate my thoughts more clearly. It has changed my life. There you go. Perfect. And I think we can all sympathise and understand with that. So listen, as always, we are running out of time, but Jamie said at the outset, if you record the chat box, I'll go to the very top. It says, in case things are shared in the chat, make sure to find the save chat feature before the end of the call, and then Zoom will save the latest so you can read that at your leisure. So this is the quick fire round then to all of our panelists. Yeah, one AI app that has changed your life. You don't have to tell us why. You can just tell us what it is and what it does. And we'll start with you, Sherin.
For me, it's been Enterprise Chat GPT.
Okay, perfect. Ed?
Yeah, I'll go with the same thing. I think for me, just the slight distinction on that. I think for me, the bit where I see a lot of value in the future is the voice interaction. I think there's big runway for us to be able to use voice moving on from typing. It's a lot quicker.
Brilliant, Ed. Thank you, Scott.
Early days yet, as we're not too far into the journey, but Ascal is already recruiting chamber members for us. So I've got to say Ascal because yeah, people we don't even know are joining membership.
I'll expect a pay rise on the back of this.
That's the big advantage there, isn't it, James?
We can find something. We'll give them more knowledge.
Indeed.
Rebecca, I know you're a big advocate of, how it can help a very busy person save time. So I'm going to allow you to have two: one work and one fun. One that you just jump on when you know you shouldn't be, but you just go, I'm just going to have a bit of fun doing this.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be Copilot, but I think that's because I've grown up in Microsoft. I've grown up in a world of Word and Excel and SharePoint and all of those things. So it has to be Copilot. But I agree with the guys. ChatGPT has completely, transformed. So Copilot's based on ChatGPT, really. So you can kind of use that as a double whammy. But my other one is Facetune, and I'm not going to tell you why.
Facetune.
Facetune.
Well, that's going to have 40 more subscribers immediately after this, isn't it? Yeah.
But no, on a basis that we're talking about AI, if you look at my LinkedIn profile picture, it is 5 photos of me from 10 years ago and 5 photos of me from now. So it still looks like me, but it's not me. It's a merge of a younger version and an older version. So there you go. That's why I love it, because people are like, wow, that photo's great. I'm like, yeah, I know. But when I'm talking about AI, I like to tell people that that's how I did it.
Good stuff. Brilliant. Well, listen, Rebecca, Ed, Sherin, and Scott, thank you very much for your time. It's just before 1 o'clock, so I'm sure people need to get on to their next meetings. This is the Bitesize Boardroom's latest installment. We do them every quarter. Please share this with all your friends and colleagues. It's a free subscription, is being a chamber supporter. And when Al convinces you to buy fully paid up membership, we look forward to seeing you at some of our events. So thanks, everyone. Have a great day, and speak to you later.